You've dinged level 60 and reached the hardest difficulty in the game, Torment 4. Slobbering through mythic uniques and game-changing uniques, your sight is set and it's time for the endgame bosses. Along the way you picked up a bunch of materials, but what are they for and how do you use them? As if that's not enough, you also gotta solve the problem of killing the toughest content in the game. Well, fret not. In this video I'll explain all the endgame bosses, and you'll learn where to find them, how to kill them, and ultimately how to efficiently farm them. To summon the bosses you need materials. Materials drop randomly from infernal hordes, the pits, undercity, world bosses, and even random mobs in the open world. The bosses have the most sought after gear. The mats are frequently sold in the trade chat, meaning you could just buy everything you need provided you have the coin for it, but we're gonna assume that you don't. The bosses are divided into two groups, we shall call the lesser and greater bosses. The lesser bosses always drops material used for summoning a greater boss, so logically when we want to gather mats for a greater boss we start off by gathering mats for a lesser boss. So where do you start? Well, let's look at the first boss. Echo of Varshan is found by the Tree of Whisper in the Malignant Burrow. To summon him you need 4 Malignant Hearts, which are found from the sources mentioned before. He in turn drops Mucus Slick Egg, which is used to summon Duriel. Varshan has 4 main skills. The first is a sort of the floor is lava skill that spawns in various alternating patterns. When initiating this phase, Varshan moves to the middle of the room. On the floor you'll see an outline of the upcoming pattern just before it covers the floor, which gives you enough time to find a safe space before the next pattern is telegraphed on the floor. There are mainly 2 pattern themes, one which randomly switches between a set amount of patterns and one which rotates like a pie chart in a clockwise or a counterclockwise direction. Varshan also spawns 3 mobs. The mobs themselves are quite harmless, but when they're up, Varshan latches onto one of them, generating a shield that is practically impenetrable. The only way to remove the shield is by killing the mob that he's latched onto or staggering Varshan. The first option is the quickest, so kill all of them as soon as they appear in order to get on with bringing Varshan down. Between these 2 phases, he moves around the room, hitting for physical damage or shooting poison bolts, dealing a fair bit of damage. If you're struggling with tanking the damage, focus on upping your poison resistance by gemming your rings and amulets. Lord Seer can be found in Gale Valley by entering the Darkened Way. He's a vampire-looking fella that requires 12 exquisite blood to summon. During the fight, he swaps between chasing and hitting you, summoning red orbs, summoning mobs, and performing a Hadouken death punch. He spews out red pools on the floor which slow you down when you walk on them, and occasionally these orbs spawn a poison wave dealing substantial damage. But they move in a straight line and are thus quite easily avoided. Lord Seer can also activate the red puddles, spawning red projectiles that deal damage on impact. At the later stages, he also does a rotating pre-telegraphed attack that you naturally just have to stay clear of. Upon death, he drops Sand-Scorched Shackles, which are used to summon Andariel. Grigoire can be found in Dindai Flats, in Hall of the Penitent. In order to summon him, you need 12 living steel. After initiating the fight, a red lightning glow covers the floor, jumping from tile to tile. Avoid it by standing in the middle, moving out of the way just as the adjacent tile goes away. Initially, Grigoire will load up massive swings, hitting in your general direction. Each hit spawns lightning bolts, and he does 3 swings in total per attack. He also slams the ground, summoning round lightning strikes that you'll need to avoid. In the next phase, he spawns pillars all over the room, activating a sort of lightning fence between them, limiting your ability to move freely. He keeps doing lightning strikes and sending out lightning bolts, as well as summoning a jolly band of knights into their death. His next big Bauta attack is triggered by him disappearing. The tiles on the floor start to light up, and you quickly need to figure out and make your way onto the unlit tiles. Grigoire drops Shard of Agony, which is used to summon Duriel. Beast in the Ice can be found in the starting area Desolate Highlands in Glacial Fissure. You need 12 Distilled Fear to summon him. In the first phase, he'll try to smack you around, occasionally summoning circles on the ground that shoots off spikes after exploding, dealing cold damage. He also jumps off screen, slamming into the ground, and does an ice breath that obviously you just need to move away from. In the next phase, he becomes invulnerable and shrouds the room in a blizzard. 4 misty rows appear on the ground, and if you stand in them, you'll get pushed into the blizzard, taking massive, often fatal damage. Stand in one clear row and you'll be fine. He does this 3 times in total, spawning mobs to distract you after the initial charge. In the next phase, he'll start slamming the ground, spawning a circle that spreads into a star-like pattern. Identify which direction he'll go and stay off the ice. If you're not fast enough, he'll initiate another blizzard phase, and after that you just need to mow him down. He drops Pincushion Doll, which you'll need to summon Andariel. Now you made it to the greater bosses. Starting off with Andariel, you'll need to head to Scouring Sands and enter Hanged Man's Hall. To summon her, you need 2 Scorched Shackles and 2 Pincushion Dolls. After the start of the fight, she'll run after you, hitting with physical damage or doing a delayed strike with her claws that deals lightning damage. She also shoots poison bolts in a fanned pattern. In the next phase, she'll disappear, spawning 3 statues surrounded by barriers. Go inside the barrier to destroy the statues. She also spawns a sandstorm at the edge of the map that deals massive poison damage. After a while, she spawns a big ass laser beam that rotates in a set direction around the room. The beam has a delayed explosion, meaning you can move through it without taking damage until it explodes. If you're caught, it's basically instant death. After destroying the statues, Andariel comes back to the map. This time she spawns lightning orbs that rotate around the map. You'll need to avoid them as they deal big damage when you walk through them. She also spawns a map dividing fire beam that is telegraphed before summoned. Touching it spells instant doom, which I found out the hard way losing 2 hardcore characters on Torment 4. The next phase is basically a combo of everything. If you had time to spawn the fire beam, you'll get that too. Avoid walking on the red stuff, don't stand in the laser beam when it goes boom, and kill the statues in order to get Andariel back. It's worth noting here that you can despawn everything by staggering her, but be careful as she will respawn the fire beam once the stagger runs out. Duriel is the second greater boss in the game. You'll find him in Southern Expanse by entering Gaping Crevasse, and you'll need 2 Mucus Slick Eggs and 2 Shards of Agony to summon him. In the first phase, he spawns poison pools on the ground that you'll need to dance around. He'll run around trying to hit you and occasionally charge around the map until hitting a wall. After hitting the wall, he'll turn around 180 degrees and strike the ground, dealing massive damage. He'll also shoot out these spiked black balls in a 180 degree fanning pattern. They hit hard, so try to avoid them. After hitting the first marker, he spawns larvae. They deal damage on landing and shoot bolts, but they're easily killed. In the second phase, Duriel burrows underground, spawning 3 additional fissures. After a slight delay, 2 mini Duriels appear that shoot poison bolts. They'll pop up, shoot, burrow and pop up again until you kill them. While all this is happening, Duriel himself reappears, shoots bolts, spawn lightning, poison pools and charge around the map. Focus on killing the spawns before going for Duriel. The last phase will get repeated if you don't kill him fast enough, but beside that, there won't be any other surprises. So, in order to maximize your farming, you should load up on as many materials as you can before repeating the bosses over and over again. And the best place in the game to farm summoning materials is Kurast Undercity with the Tribute of Titans activated. For maximized summoning drops, you should also be running the Succeeding Opal of Torment, which can be found from this Realm Walker event, picking Torment challenges upon reaching the first portal after the world boss has been killed. Farm up a decent chunk of materials and then start killing the lesser bosses until you run out of mats. Shift over to the greater bosses and hope for good loot. Don't bother saving the uniques in the bank. Sell them or disenchant them if you need mats. They net a substantial amount of gold. In a test run I got roughly 50 million gold after farming for 30 minutes and only from boss drops and selling the unneeded loot. And also don't bother using Seeding Opal of Torment hoping for more mats. They netted very little in my latest test. Subscribe because this is a coordinated disgrace.